The world is changing. The era of globalization, with its promise of interconnectedness and shared prosperity, is fading. In its place, we see a return to geopolitical competition. This fragmentation is driven by several factors. The rise of nationalism and populism has fueled a backlash against global institutions. Economic inequality and the perceived uneven benefits of globalization have also contributed to this trend. Regional conflicts and power struggles further exacerbate these divisions. The rules-based international order established after World War II is under strain. The United States, once the guarantor of this order, is now seen by many as part of the problem. Its foreign policy is increasingly perceived as unilateralist and interventionist. This has created a vacuum in global leadership. Other powers, such as China and Russia, are eager to fill this void. They offer alternative visions of global governance, often at odds with the liberal democratic values of the West. This geopolitical fragmentation has profound implications for the world. It creates uncertainty, instability, and the potential for conflict. It also poses significant challenges for international cooperation on pressing global issues such as climate change, pandemics, and cybersecurity. The world is entering a new era of geopolitical competition. The rules of the game are changing. The rise of middle powers navigating a multipolar world. As the world becomes increasingly multipolar, middle powers are playing a more prominent role on the global stage. These countries are not superpowers. However, they wield significant economic and diplomatic influence. They are active in regional and international organizations. They leverage their positions to advance their interests. These middle powers include countries like India, Japan, Germany, and Indonesia. They are joined by regional players such as Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Brazil. These nations are diverse in their political systems, economic models, and foreign policy priorities. However, they share a common interest in a stable and predictable international order. They are also keen to avoid being caught in the crossfire of great power competition. Middle powers are often at the forefront of efforts to promote dialogue, diplomacy, and multilateralism. They act as bridge builders between competing powers. They provide platforms for cooperation on shared challenges. The rise of middle powers is a positive development in a world grappling with fragmentation and uncertainty. Their role as mediators, facilitators, and norm shapers is crucial. They contribute to a more balanced and inclusive global order. Their voices and perspectives enrich international discourse and policy making. The US-China rivalry, economic and military tensions. The relationship between the United States and China is the defining geopolitical challenge of the 21st century. The two countries are locked in a strategic competition for global influence. This rivalry plays out on multiple fronts: economic, technological, military, and ideological. Economically, China has emerged as a global powerhouse, challenging the United States' long-standing dominance. The two countries are deeply intertwined through trade and investment. However, they are also increasingly competing for markets, resources, and technological supremacy. This economic rivalry has spilled over into a trade war. It has also fueled concerns about unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, and forced technology transfer. Militarily, China is rapidly modernizing its armed forces. It is projecting its power further afield, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. This has raised concerns in Washington about China's intentions and its potential to challenge U.S. military supremacy in the region. Russia and the West, a new Cold War. The relationship between Russia and the West has deteriorated sharply in recent years. The conflict in Ukraine, Russia's annexation of Crimea, and its interference in Western elections have created a climate of mistrust and hostility. The West has responded with sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and increased military deployments in Eastern Europe. Russia, in turn, has accused the West of hypocrisy, double standards, and encirclement. It has sought to undermine NATO and the European Union. It has strengthened ties with countries like China and Iran. The current state of affairs bears an unsettling resemblance to the Cold War. However, there are also important differences. The ideological divide between Russia and the West is not as stark as it was during the Cold War. The global economy is far more integrated today. This makes it more difficult to isolate Russia completely. Despite these differences, the risk of miscalculation and escalation between Russia and the West remains high. The conflict in Ukraine is a dangerous flashpoint. Cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and military incidents could easily spiral out of control. The lack of trust and communication channels between Russia and the West makes it difficult to manage these risks.